Meet Sam Bankman-Fried, the MIT physics graduate who turned a knack for numbers and a taste for risk into one of the fastest-growing financial empires of the 21st century. Before the scandals, before the headlines, before the downfall, there was the meteoric rise. A rise that seemed to defy logic, but in many ways made perfect sense in the wild frontier of crypto. Sam wasn't born into Wall Street, but he might as well have been destined for it. His parents were Stanford law professors, and by the time he enrolled at MIT, he had the kind of brain that treated markets like puzzles waiting to be solved. At MIT, he wasn't the loudest in the room, but he was relentless. Dorm life was coding, math problems, and video games, but also a budding obsession with how money moves. He didn't just want to make money. He wanted to see the system from the inside and find the inefficiencies no one else noticed. After graduating in 2014, Sam joined Jane Street Capital, a trading firm known for its intensity, secrecy, and razor-thin margins of success. It was the kind of place where milliseconds could mean millions, and only the sharpest minds survived. There, Sam was thrown into the deep end of quantitative trading, and he thrived. He learned the art of arbitrage, spotting tiny price differences across markets and pouncing on them before anyone else could. It wasn't glamorous work. To most people, it was tedious, buried in endless streams of data, numbers that blurred together. But to Sam, it was like oxygen. Every fraction of a cent was an opportunity. Every mispriced trade a puzzle begging to be solved. He was good at it, frighteningly good. Colleagues later described him as someone who could live on a beanbag in the office, coding late into the night, running simulations, then showing up the next morning with a new way to squeeze profits out of chaos. But eventually, the traditional finance world began to feel too small. Jane Street was disciplined, rule-bound, and efficient. But Sam craved something wilder. He wanted speed, scale, and above all, a market where the rules weren't written yet. That's when his attention turned to crypto, the new frontier where chaos wasn't a bug, it was the feature. Enter crypto. In 2017, Bitcoin was exploding, and the Wild West of digital exchanges was pure chaos. Prices didn't just shift by the hour. They swung drastically across borders. On some days, you could buy Bitcoin in the US and sell it in Japan for a 10% profit, a gap so massive it almost looked like free money. But most traders couldn't pull it off. The transfers were slow, the logistics messy, and strict capital controls made cross-border trades a nightmare. Sam saw not just risk, but opportunity. That year, he founded Alameda Research, a trading firm built to exploit those inefficiencies with precision and speed. Using sophisticated algorithms, rapid execution, and a relentless appetite for risk, Alameda turned chaos into cash. At its peak, the firm was reportedly making millions per day, vacuuming up profits that others left on the table, and cementing Sam's reputation as a prodigy who could bend volatility to his will. But Sam wasn't satisfied with just trading. He wanted infrastructure. He wanted to build the platform that others traded on. So in 2019, from a small office in Hong Kong, he launched FTX. The pitch was simple but brilliant. A crypto exchange built by traders for traders. Advanced features, clean design, and a brand that positioned itself as more trustworthy than the messy, unreliable exchanges of the time. FTX didn't just grow, it exploded. Within 2 years, it was processing billions in daily volume. Sam raised money from some of the most powerful venture capital firms in the world. Sequoia, SoftBank, BlackRock. Celebrities flocked to invest and endorse Tom Brady, Steph Curry, Gisele Bündchen. FTX bought the naming rights to the Miami Heat's arena. Ads ran during the Super Bowl. The company's slogan, "Not an expert," not a problem. FTX was everywhere. By early 2022, FTX was valued at $32 billion. Sam's personal fortune was estimated at $20+ billion, making him one of the richest people in the world, practically overnight. He became the face of effective altruism, promising to give away most of his wealth to charity. He was praised as a genius, a savior of crypto, even a possible successor to Warren Buffett, if Warren Buffett had grown up playing League of Legends. From the outside, it looked unstoppable. MIT graduate, Wall Street pedigree, billions under management. Politicians courted him. Investors worshipped him. He testified in Congress about crypto regulation. In a sector known for chaos, Sam seemed like the adult in the room. But underneath the empire was something fragile. And just like Shane Dawson's story, what looked like reinvention and brilliance from the outside carried cracks that would eventually split wide open. For a while, it felt like Sam Bankman-Fried had cracked the code. But if the first act of his story was about building fast, the second was about how quickly it could all come crashing down. And when it did, it wasn't just one man falling. It was an empire unraveling in real time. The cracks started quietly. Alameda Research, Sam's original trading firm, was supposed to be separate from FTX, the exchange. At least, that was the story told to investors, regulators, and customers. But behind the curtain, the two companies were entangled in ways that would eventually prove disastrous. Alameda wasn't just another client of FTX. It was a client with special privileges. It could borrow, trade, and take risks in ways others couldn't. And those risks began to pile up. Throughout 2021 and into 2022, the crypto world was booming, but it was also fragile. Prices of Bitcoin, Ethereum, and thousands of other tokens soared and then crashed. Companies that looked unstoppable one month collapsed the next. Sam positioned himself as the savior of the industry. When other firms faltered, he swooped in with bailouts, cash infusions, and public statements that projected stability. To the outside world, this looked heroic. To insiders, it was a red flag, because the money propping up these rescues wasn't always as solid as it seemed. FTX had built its reputation on trust. "Your money is safe with us," Sam repeated in interviews. But what customers didn't know was that billions of dollars deposited on FTX were quietly being funneled into Alameda. Customer funds, money that was supposed to sit untouched, were being used to plug holes, fund risky bets, and keep the empire afloat. In the world of finance, that's not just risky, it's catastrophic. The tipping point came in November 2022. A report by CoinDesk revealed leaked documents showing that Alameda's balance sheet was propped up by billions in FTT, a token created by FTX itself. In other words, much of Alameda's supposed wealth was backed not by hard assets, but by digital chips created out of thin air. It was like discovering that the foundation of a skyscraper was built on sand. The revelation triggered panic. Binance, FTX's biggest competitor, announced it would sell its massive holdings of FTT. That single move set off a chain reaction. The value of FTT plummeted. Customers rushed to withdraw billions from FTX. And in the span of just a few days, the empire that had looked unshakable began to collapse. Withdrawals froze. Rumors swirled. Sam tweeted reassurances promising everything was fine, that assets were safe. But the truth was unraveling too fast to contain. On November 11, 2022, FTX filed for bankruptcy. Overnight, billions in customer funds vanished. People who thought they were investing safely woke up to discover their money was gone, trapped in a black hole of mismanagement and deception. And just like that, the golden boy of crypto became its greatest cautionary tale. The fallout was immediate and brutal. Sam resigned as CEO, replaced by John J. Ray III, the same man brought in to clean up Enron 2 decades earlier. His first statement? "Never in my career have I seen such a complete failure of corporate controls." That alone told the world how bad things really were. What had looked like a polished $32 billion empire was, in reality, a tangled mess of sloppy bookkeeping, reckless decisions, and blurred lines between personal fortune and customer trust. Regulators pounced. Politicians who once praised Sam now distanced themselves. The celebrities who had appeared in FTX commercials faced lawsuits, and investors, some of the most powerful in Silicon Valley, were forced to admit they hadn't done enough due diligence. They had been dazzled by the story by the hoodie-wearing MIT grad who seemed like a genius, and they ignored the warning signs. Meanwhile, Sam went from being a billionaire to reportedly having just $100,000 in his bank account. He was arrested in the Bahamas in December 2022, charged with fraud, conspiracy, and money laundering. Prosecutors described FTX as one of the largest financial frauds in American history. Suddenly, the man once compared to Warren Buffett was now being compared to Bernie Madoff. But here's the thing, Sam didn't see himself that way. In interviews after the collapse, he insisted he hadn't set out to commit fraud. He framed it as a series of mistakes, poor risk management, and oversight failures. To him, he wasn't a criminal mastermind. He was a reckless gambler who lost control of the casino he built. Whether people believe that or not is another story. But perception matters, and the public saw betrayal, not mismanagement. And the collapse wasn't just about one man. It shook the entire crypto industry. Trust evaporated overnight. Prices crashed across the market. Regulators used FTX as Exhibit A for why stricter rules were needed. For years, crypto had marketed itself as the future of finance, a decentralized alternative to banks. But in the wreckage of FTX, it looked less like the future and more like another cautionary tale of greed, hype, and hubris. By 2023, the empire was gone. The Miami Heat arena quietly stripped FTX's name from its walls. Venture capital firms wrote off billions. Customers continued to fight in court for scraps of their savings. And Sam Bankman-Fried, once hailed as the boy genius who would change finance forever, faced a courtroom instead of a boardroom. And yet, just like Shane Dawson's story, the lesson isn't just in the rise or the fall, it's in what both reveal. For Shane, it was the danger of ignoring accountability. For Sam, it was the danger of building an empire without guardrails. In both cases, reinvention and ambition could only carry them so far. Eventually, the truth, whether in old videos or hidden balance sheets, caught up. The story of Sam Bankman-Fried is a reminder that success without transparency is a ticking time bomb. You can raise billions, charm investors, buy stadiums, and plaster your brand across the Super Bowl. But if the foundation is weak, if trust is broken, it only takes one shock to bring it all crashing down. And when it does, the fall is faster and harder than anyone expects. Today, Sam's future hangs in limbo. His empire's gone, his fortune erased, and his name etched into history, not as the next Buffett, but as a warning. A reminder that even in the newest, most exciting industries, the oldest rule still applies. Trust takes years to build and seconds to destroy. So, what do you think? Was Sam Bankman-Fried a misunderstood genius who got in over his head? Or a calculated fraud who knew exactly what he was doing? Let me know in the comments. And if you found this breakdown eye-opening, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Because each week we explore the rise and fall of empires, from YouTubers to billionaires, and everyone in between. Because at the end of the day, it's not just about how high you climb, it's about whether the empire you build can actually last.